Oh, I'm starting. I'm sorry. My brain supposed to tell you that I'm starting. Yeah, so I'm just saying. I just put. Hi, this is my Bible study. My name is Douglas Griffin, and it is Wednesday, July 19th. We are in the book of John, chapter 20. Jesus has gone to the cross, and that weekend, once the Sabbath was over and they were able to actually do some quote unquote work, because you're not supposed to work on the Sabbath. So once the Sabbath's over, the women go first to the tomb. It's very significant how the angels and Jesus, who they choose to talk to and who they don't choose to talk to. Right now, I want to focus on Mary Magdalene. So I'm going to start with John chapter 20, verse 1, because that's when we first hear her, about her. It says, "Now the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb early." John mentions her separately because she came separately from the other women. She was going to meet the other women there. They didn't all live in one big dormitory. They all had separate houses. So they could either meet at the tomb or meet somewhere in the city and walk to the tomb together. Mary must have lived closer to the tomb. "I'll just meet you at the tomb." And they're there because they're hoping somebody will roll the stone away from them so they can anoint his body and do all the things they didn't get a chance to do because he was taken down right at sunset and put right in the tomb because everybody had to go off and do Passover. So now let's do all the things that will preserve his body and go through all the rituals and do all the things. But when they get there, somebody's already rolled the stone away, and so that freaks them out. That freaks Mary out. So we know that she wasn't necessarily by herself. In Mark chapter 16, verse 9, it says, "Now when he rose early on the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom was cast 7 devils." I might want to talk about that cast 7 devils part anyway. Interestingly enough, he mentions her in Mark 15, chapter verse 40, verse 47, 61. He never mentions the seven devils part until in relationship to going to the tomb, not because she didn't have 7 devils cast out of her, but he wants you to know he's going to talk to her first. And yet this is a person who cast 7 devils out of her. So that just tells you about that God's not picking, let me find a priest and appear to him first, or let me find someone, this woman had 7 devils cast out of her, and yet this is the first person that the God of glory decides to speak to. So I think he's trying to just put that into perspective for us. In Luke chapter 7, we hear a story about someone that they accuse of being Mary Magdalene. I just want to read these stories. I want to read this because Mary Magdalene has gotten this bad reputation. Yes, she had 7 devils cast out of her. But exactly, please. I just went to the store and had to do that to the cashier until she would cash my check. No, I'm kidding. But she was not a prostitute. But let's go to the story why people think, well, she was a prostitute. No, she wasn't. Okay. And in those days, it wasn't hard to get 7 devils in you. Actually, not that hard to do it these days. In Luke chapter 7, verse 36, it says, "Then one of the Pharisees asked him to eat with him." Again, a Pharisee? I can't, yeah. And he went to the Pharisee's house, and he sat down to eat. And behold, a woman in the city who was a sinner, whom she knew that Jesus sat at the table in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster flask of fragrant oil, and stood at his feet behind him, weeping. And she began to wash his feet with her tears, and wiped them with the hair of her head, and she kissed his feet and anointed them with the fragrant oil. This is because Jesus preached something that nobody else had preached, which is forgiveness. I wonder if today we're pointing out sin too much and not pointing out forgiveness enough. Because she's crying because Jesus didn't go around saying, you're sinning and everybody's sinning. And he went around saying, you're forgiven and you're forgiven. When they let the guy down through the roof, your sins are forgiven you. We feel it's our duty to point out everybody's sin. We feel that we carry signs, you're sinning, you're going to hell. And Jesus didn't feel the need to do that. You would think he'd be the one person who would really feel let me tell everybody who's going to hell. She's weeping because Jesus went around constantly preaching forgiveness. That's the whole point. So that's why he's there, and that's why she's crying, because this man made her for the first time feel accepted. The Pharisees were the one that was constantly telling everybody who's going to hell and who's not. And okay, so she's crying, and they're shocked. Why are you letting this one? Don't you know she's a sinner? And so Jesus said, let me tell you about this parable about the guy who owed one person, one person owed him hundreds of thousands of dollars and one person owed him 50 cents. Who's going to be more grateful that their debt's forgiven? Well, obviously the person who owed much. Well, yeah. So that's why she's crying. Sometimes the people who are more aware of how God has changed their life become more devoted and more loving of Christ. And the people who think, I wasn't that bad, then I became a Christian and my life hasn't really changed that much, because I wasn't that bad before. And yes, you were. Your particular sins are not broadcast every day. But sin to God. But this person who's been told, you're going to hell, that person, they're going to be more grateful, just naturally. So, so he's telling this parable, and he says in verse 44, then he turned to the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? He says, I entered your house. Come on now, I entered your house. There we go. Turning this off. And you gave me no water for my feet, but she has washed my feet with her tears and wiped them with the hair of her head. I mean, you didn't you're here. There just was this kind of ho-humness. And people who have been like this Pharisee, he'd been in church his whole life. That's the whole point of being a Pharisee. Oh, Jesus is here. Yeah, come on, Jesus. Cool, have some cookies. But the person who was aware of their sin, because again, we rate sin. And I was jealous one day. And I had a proud look. Big deal. Jesus is like, no, these are all sins to God. There's not, that's a horrible sin. And we talk about it all the time. Oh my God, believe that person, they did this and child kidnapping. And those are horrible things. But we don't think our sins are horrible. We just think, they're just a little bit annoying to God. And Jesus is saying, I came into your house, Pharisee. You didn't cry and wash my feet, and you didn't even. But this woman, she hasn't ceased. He says, you gave me no kiss, but this woman has not ceased to kiss my feet, and since the time I came in. You did not anoint my head with oil, but this woman has anointed my feet with fragrant oil. Therefore I say to you, her sins, which are many, are forgiven, for she loves much. But to whom little is forgiven, the same loves little. And little in your mind, he's saying. Jesus is not saying, well, you just had a little sin and she had a big sin. He's saying, in your mind, you just think it's a little thing. So to you, only little has been forgiven, because that's how you're looking at it. And some people are that way. We really compare ourselves to these horrible things that were going on, and the sins we commit every day, just arrogance or whatever, that little. So you love little, because in comparison, you just don't think that much has happened. So you go, oh yeah, Jesus, yeah. So the people who really have been told their whole lives, that's a big sin, when they find out they're forgiven, they love much. So that's what's going on here. He's not saying your sin was little and hers was big. He's saying in your brain, that's what it was. Then he said to her, your sins are forgiven. And those who sat at the table with him began to say to themselves, who is this man who forgives sins? They just think he's a nice preacher that's come to the house. He's forgiven sins. She knows who I am. She knows I have the power to forgive sins. You don't even think I have the power to forgive sins. You think I'm just you just have me over because of what it's going to look like on your resume. And I had so-and-so at my house one day, and look, let me get a selfie with you, Jesus, and I can post it on my Facebook page. Look who showed up. As opposed to, oh my God, you should be in tears the whole time, but you're not. And that's the difference. This woman knows her sin, and you just think your sins are little. It's too bad. So you're only going to love little. So he says, your faith has saved you, go in peace. That's verse 50 of Luke 7. Very next verse. And again, they don't have it really is literally the next sentence. They didn't have chapters and all that stuff like that. It was just all written on a scroll. It was just, you scroll down, and the very next word is, now it came to pass afterwards, right after that. So here are the following events that are not connected to that event. It says that he went through every city and village preaching and bringing glad tidings of the kingdom of God. And the 12 are with him. So after that woman, now he's preaching all along, because this is the beginning of his, in Galilee and in Samaria and in the north, the beginning of his ministry. So now he's preaching to everybody. And certain women who had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities. So healed of evil spirits, they had devils in them, or they had sicknesses. These are different than, because he would have said, and that woman who was weeping and crying, and not that woman. These are different women who had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities, sicknesses. For example, Mary called Magdalene, out of whom had come 7 demons. That's one of the women who was now part of his disciples. And Joanna, the wife of Chuza, who was Herod's steward. So somebody who worked right in Herod's house, that person's wife. So they're making money. Herod's wife, Chuza's wife, the herald's wife, his servant, his steward, his butler. That guy's wife. Also Susanna and many others who provided for him from their substance. So these are the group of very rich women, very wealthy women. Mary Magdalene was one of them. They had money. But they've been healed, demons cast out, all these different things. And so they're like, we're here, we're following, we're good. And they're supporting the men. So that's the group of Mary Magdalene. She's not the woman that was weeping, crying. That's not her. She was not a prostitute. She was a rich woman who followed Jesus. She's in that group. So Mary Magdalene is at the tomb. She gets there. It says, and while it was still dark, and she saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb. Her mind went right to, somebody got here before us. They broke into this tomb. The soldiers are all laid out on the ground. She doesn't even stop to hear the angel who says, hey, go inside. I'm out of here. They have stolen his body. That's the first thing that she thinks. It says, now, in Matthew 28, verse 1, now after the Sabbath, as the first day of the week began to dawn, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to see the tomb. They met there to see the tomb, but Mary Magdalene came on her own. That's why she left on her own. She hadn't arrived with him. Those other women stayed there. We know that the other Mary was there, the mother of Mary and James. In fact, it says that in Mark 16, verse 1 and 2. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James and John, right? John didn't even mention his own mother. Well, yeah, he didn't even mention his own mother was there. That's so interesting. Mary, the mother of James and John. Salome was there, and we know that Joanna was there. They stay. Mary Magdalene leaves because she didn't come with them, and she sees, and what she had feared happened. Oh no, somebody's beat us here. They've rolled the stone away. They've knocked out all these soldiers. The angels stop and tell the women, go on inside. She didn't hear that part. John chapter 20, verse 2. And she ran, and he came to Simon Peter and to the other disciple, went to them separately, whom Jesus loved, and said to them, they have taken away the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him. Because that's all, someone broke in. They didn't just break in for fun. Ooh, let's open that tomb and smell it. No, they broke in the tomb, and they took that body. But again, she never looked inside. She just made assumptions. That's okay. We make assumptions. So now I'm skipping down to her coming back. So we know that John and Peter ran to the tomb from their separate houses. They meet up and then run together the rest of the way. John gets there first. John looks inside, but Peter just goes inside. That's his personality. That's why Peter said, Jesus said to Peter, I'm going to tell you a bunch of stuff because you're just going to barge in anyway. You're going to be the first one up to speak. You're going to be the first one to talk. So since that's who you are, let me straighten you out. And he spent a lot of times with Peter because Peter's going to be the first one to speak. Peter's first one in that tomb. He runs in. No angel says anything to them. They simply see the bedclothes. There's no angel that talks to them. They leave. When the women come back, angels talk to them, tell them what's going on. Why didn't the angels talk to? There was an angel on the tomb when the women first got there. There's an angel. When Peter and John get there, angels are gone. No angel. So when the women look in, angels talk to them. They leave. Peter and John get there, angels like, oop, hide. This is on purpose. We want the women to know this stuff. The men are goofy, okay? They have a different lesson to learn. So Mary now comes back. Peter and John have gone back a different way. She doesn't run into Peter and John. They've taken a different road back. John's thinking, oh, I think he must have risen from the dead because his clothes are still wrapped as though they were wrapped around a body, as though a body passed through them. So he must have risen. Peter didn't know what to think. So Peter's not convinced yet, but John's convinced, and they go back a different way. So Mary's coming back a different road because they're on these mountains, right, where Gethsemane was and where the crucifixion took place, and it's like a mountain range, and there's different paths that you can take. So she's just taking a different path. So it says, Mary stood outside. This is John chapter 20, verse 11, focusing on Mary Magdalene. Mary stood outside by the tomb weeping, because I can't believe somebody took his body. The angels have already talked to the women. The women have left. Mary Magdalene did not get the message. That's fine, because there's a different thing that Jesus wanted had to happen for her. And as she wept, now she stooped down and she looks inside the tomb. She didn't look inside the first time. And she saw two angels in white sitting. They weren't there. The guys were just there. The angels disappeared. Mary gets there. Angels come back. This is no coincidence. It was like, well, the women were the first ones there. No, the angels didn't want to talk to the men. Jesus didn't want to talk to the men. They wanted to talk to the women first. I've chosen the women to carry the message. I'm going to tell them the most important words that you can ever hear uttered. He is risen. I want the women to be the first one to preach the gospel. So please don't tell me women aren't supposed to preach. And she saw two angels in white sitting, one at the head and the other at the foot where the body would have been. So I want to go over, because what the angels tell Mary Magdalene is different than what the angels told the other women. So let's rehearse what he told the women. In Matthew chapter 28, remember Mary Magdalene left immediately, but the other women stayed there. And then they saw the angel sitting on top of the rock who said, hey, well, let's read it. Matthew 28, verse 5. But the angel answered, because they said, oh my God, they've stolen his body, and then she's out. But the other women stayed there. The angels answered and said to the women who stayed, do not be afraid, for I know that you seek Jesus, who was crucified. Not asking, whom do you seek? So it's very clear. I know you seek Jesus. He's not here, for he has risen, as he said. Come see the place where the Lord lay. And they go in. Two other angels are inside. They finish the story, but Matthew tells it as one story, because it is one story. But this is what the angel said inside, verse 7. Go quickly, tell his disciple that he is risen from the dead, and indeed he is going before you into Galilee. So, tell him he's risen, and then go to Galilee. They do not do this. That's why Jesus had a separate set of things that the disciples needed to go through. They were going to suffer the most persecution, for sure. The women were going to suffer the same sort of persecution that the men were going to suffer, because in that culture, we don't even listen to the women. La, 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 la. So we're only going to listen to the men anyway, and then we're going to kill them. So God already knew they had a different fate. So there's a different way he had to deal with them. There's a different way he had to build their fate, their faith. So I've already told them a bunch of stuff. I don't want them to get used to this, like I'm going to have to show up and tell them every hour a new thing. I want them to believe all the stuff that I've already told them. So when they show up, they're going to have to use their faith and recall, what did he say? What did he say? Right? The women didn't hear all of those things. They heard some of them. But they have a different mission. So he tells them he's risen. Say, I'm going to go to Galilee. Jesus knows they're not going to go to Galilee. But I want them to hear, go to Galilee. And Jesus still did, when he showed up twice, he didn't say, hey, why aren't you in Galilee? He just showed up and then he left. Because he's trying to teach them to recall the words that he said, because that's what they're all going to have to depend on for the next 20, 30, 40 years of their lives. What did Jesus tell us in those 2.5 years? So, in Mark chapter 16, verse 5, it says, and entering the tomb, they saw a young man, even though there was two, he's only mentions as the one that he speaks, clothed in a long white robe, sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. He says to them, don't be alarmed, and I'm rehearsing what he says to the women, because he says something different to Mary. Why? Don't be alarmed. You seek Jesus. He doesn't ask her, whom do you seek? You seek Jesus, who was crucified. He is risen. He's not here. See the place where they laid him? See? But go tell his disciples and Peter that he's going before you into Galilee. There you will see him as he said to you, because the disciples are in one place, Peter's in a different place. Okay, now, we hear what he said to the women. Mary Magdalene peeks her head down. John chapter 20, verse 13. So she sees two men. They are not glowing at the time. Had they been glowing and their raiment was white as snow, she would have known they were angels. They chose not to glow because something different for Mary. So they said to her, woman, why are you weeping? They could have said, do not be alarmed. We know that you're here seeking Jesus. He is Mary, why are you weeping? What is it that you're thinking? What's going on in your head? What are you putting together? Because you heard Jesus say something different. They're almost treating her like one of the disciples. I want you to think this through. Because sometimes we learn best the lessons that we have to think through ourselves. When people just tell us, do this, tell us, do that, we haven't necessarily learned it. But when they explain it to us and then let us figure it out and recall it, we learn it even better. It becomes deeper in our heads. So Mary, what's going through your head? Why are you weeping? What is it that you are thinking? You've been abandoned. You was all for nothing. They've stolen. What's going on with you? So she said to them, I'm weeping because they've taken away my Lord, and I don't know where they have laid them. So I think it's all been for nothing. They've taken his body. I have a job to do. I don't know where they've laid them, and I need to do the rest of my job, and I'm sad because I can't complete what I think I'm supposed to do. Oh, okay. What do you think you're supposed to do? You think your job was to anoint his body? Okay, maybe not. So they said to, so now when she'd said this, because here's my problem, I don't know where his body is. She turned around and she saw Jesus standing right behind her. But she didn't know who it is because she didn't know who they were. She just thinks there's two guys who are cleaning up the tomb. She saw Jesus standing there and did not know that it was Jesus. And Jesus said to her, woman, why are you weeping? So he's saying the same thing the angel said in the tomb because he wants her to really think, what is it that you're afraid of? That something's happened to the body, that you haven't got a chance to do the ritual that's supposed to be performed on the body, and that he therefore won't get a proper burial. God won't accept his body because there's something you're thinking about the body not being here, and that's why you're crying. Why are you crying? Who are you seeking? So she's supposing him to be the gardener. Now, again, when the women looked in, they didn't say, hey, woman, where are you looking? They told the women, you're looking for Jesus. Let me tell you about you. Who are you seeking? Yes, it's Jesus, and it's his body I'm concerned about because I've got to finish his body. The ritual that's supposed to be done in his body is not going to be complete, and maybe he'll rot in hell because I didn't do all the things I was supposed to do on this earth for his body. So she's supposed him to be the gardener. She said to him, sir, if you carried him away, tell me where you have laid him. And I will take him away because I've got to finish what I'm supposed to do on the earth to his body. So tell me where you've laid him. I'll bring him back. I'll take him away from you, because she's thinking of him as human, and she knows that the ritual has to be finished on his body. So Jesus says to her, Mary. Now he's been talking to her already, but he says her name. And this reminds me of the song, He Knows My Name. Like he knows your name. He knows you. When he said Mary, that's when it went through her, because he knows us intimately. He knows us. He knows us by name. You're not just a bunch of Christians in a church. No, he knows us individually. And when he speaks to our heart, it's like, oh my God, he spoke that to me. A friend of mine reminded me of a story the other day because she could not find her car keys. She was panicked. Oh my God. And then she just got quiet, and suddenly God put in her heart where her car keys were. And she went, and there they were, and she started crying. It's like, he cares that much about me. He helped me find my car keys. It's like Jesus cares that much that he even cared about where my car keys were. And she's weeping because it's that type of personal relationship that we got with God that we think God doesn't care about the little things. Yeah, he can care about the little things. And so when he says her name, that's when she turned and went, teacher, rabbi, and she's ready to grab him. In 2 Kings chapter 4, There's a way that women grabbed superiors in people, their teachers, their prophets in that day. Okay, 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 25. The Shunammite woman. It says, and her son has just died, and she tells her husband, basically, I'm going to go to the prophet. Where are you going? I'm going to the prophet. So she departed, and she went to the man of God at Mount Carmel, because this child that she did not ask for, this child that the prophet says, you're going to get pregnant, and you're going to have a baby, and says, okay. And then sure enough, it all happens. Now this child is dead. And so let me go back to the man of God, because he's the one. I wish we would do this more often. Let me go to God about this, because if God is the one that set this in motion, he's going to have to fix it. So she went to, you have to fix this because you set this in motion. That's the truth. Stop taking it on. It's, oh, I got to take care of this. God, if you brought this together, if you brought this job together, if you brought this couple together, if you brought this person into the world, you got a plan. So I'm going to go to you every time something happens and expect you to fix it. And God's like, yep, thank you. I'll do it. So she goes to the man of God, like, hello. And it says, so it was when the man of God saw her afar off that she said to his steward, Gehazi, who has his own story, look, the Shunammite woman, she's coming. So please run now, meet her and say to her, is it well with you? Is it well with your husband? Is it well with the child? Like, something's wrong because she wouldn't be here otherwise. So he goes to her, asks her, is it well? And she answered, it is well. That's all you need to know, Gehazi, because I'm not talking to you. I'm going to go to the man who prophesied in the first place, and I'm going to look him in the eye. Now, when she came to the man of God at the hill, she caught him by his feet, but Gehazi came near to push her away. But the man of God said, let her alone, for her soul is in deep distress, and the Lord has hidden it from me, and he's not told me. So she's grabbing him. Now, Mary is grabbing Jesus in that way. Like, I'm prostrating myself before you. But she doesn't grab his feet. She's like on her knees and probably got his knees or something, right? Not his feet. So Jesus says, oh, do not cling to me. He doesn't say, don't touch my feet. You're clinging to me in a way that I can't move. You can't do that. Now, if he'd had her feet, if she would just had his feet, he would have said something different to her. In Matthew 28:9, when the women show up later, because they also come back to the tomb, after they tell the disciples, he is risen, go to Galilee, and they just look at the women like they're crazy, the women go back to the tomb. And it says in Matthew 28:9, and as they went to tell his other disciples, behold, Jesus met them saying, because okay, I'm going to go talk to these other disciples. These first didn't listen to us, but there's like 7. There's a whole bunch of students. Jesus met them saying, rejoice. So they came and they held him by the feet and worshiped him. Jesus didn't say, don't touch me, because they're grabbing his feet. So she didn't grab his feet, right? And just imagine her clinging to his waist or his knees, crying, oh my God, right? So Jesus said to them, do not be afraid. Now, he would have said, don't touch my feet if the feet was a problem. Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brethren to go to Galilee, and that they will see me also. So Jesus appears to the women. Jesus appears to Mary. Peter and John went to the tomb. Jesus didn't appear to them, because he'd already told them everything they needed to know, and they needed to have faith. So they didn't need to. They can't expect Jesus to show up every single time they're in doubt. That's not. So no, I'm not appearing to you guys. I've already told you what to do. I'm trying to train you differently for what's coming up in your life. But these women, I want them to be the first to see me, because they're the first ones. I want them to spread the gospel. So, why did Jesus say this? Well, he says to them, for I have not yet ascended to my Father. So, the ritual that we're studying in the book of Exodus on Sundays is the high priest of the Day of Atonement. No one was supposed to touch him. He can't be touched and be defiled by anybody, because they could have touched a dead body. They might have, who knows what they might have touched. So don't touch the priest. Now his feet are going to touch the ground where there's dirt. So the feet don't count. You can touch his feet. I'm going to touch the dirt. I'm going to step on all sort of stuff. But from the feet up, from the ankles up, don't touch him. and he's got to go into the tomb, and he's got to take the sacrifice and put it on the mercy seat without being defiled by anybody. Nobody can go in the temple at that time. And then he can come outside, and now that he's complete, now you can grab me and hug me if you want. And so God had established this for 1,200 years. This is the ritual. You don't touch the high priest on the day that he's atoning for the sins. You can touch his feet. His feet are going to touch the ground. But let him complete the ritual and shed his blood on the seat. Jesus had gone into the spirit world where Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Moses and everybody was. And the Bible says he preached to the spirits in prison. Now he came up, grabbed that body. He's about to go up to heaven, and he's going to actually shed his blood on the seat. But I want to appear to you, Mary, first, because you think there's something else you're supposed to do to the body. No, that part is done. It is finished. I've completed everything. There's nothing left for you to do. There's nothing left for us to do to Jesus. He's done it all. You don't have any more assignment with the body. I needed you to see the body so you could just put you out of your misery. The body's fine. Now I'm on my way up to heaven to shed my blood. So I'm relieving you of your assignment. If I don't appear to you now, you're just going to keep crying all day thinking, I've got to find his body. Tell me where his body is. Nope. I have a resurrected body now, so you don't have to cleanse it and do all that stuff like that. I've got a new body. But I can't let you touch me because I've established for 1,200 years, don't touch the priest until he's shed the blood in the mercy seat. So I need to do all things in accordance, so there's no Pharisee anywhere. There's nobody saying, well, that couldn't have been Jesus because he did it wrong. Let's do everything all according to the law. Even remember when John the Baptist says, hey, you should baptize me. Nope. You got to baptize me. We have to do everything according to the law so that they can find no fault. I must complete the law perfectly. And the last thing I had to do is shed my blood on that mercy seat. My last act on earth before with crucifixion was I did all those things. And now that I've gone into prison, now to other spirits in quote unquote prison, and set them free, I'm leading captivity captive. I've got to go to heaven, shed my blood. But your job is done. Do not worry about my body. Done. So, Jesus said to her, don't cling to me. We're good. Now, he appears to the disciples. We'll get it later. They don't touch him. He appears, remember, they're just sitting in their room. They won't go to Galilee because something's wrong with them. He appears to them, hello, see, look, and he shows them, but they don't touch him. Then he disappears. A couple days later, he appears again, shows to Thomas. This is very specific. In John chapter 20, verse 26. After 8 days, his disciples were again inside and Thomas with them. And Jesus came, the doors being shut, and stood in their midst. And that he's saying, by the way, the doors were shut, and he was just suddenly there. So his that glorified body is not bound by the physical world at all. He just walked right through the walls because physical doesn't mean anything to the spiritual anymore. And he came to the door, stood in the midst, and said, peace to you. Then he said to Thomas, you can reach your finger here, look at my hands, and you can reach your hands here and put them into my side. Don't believe, you can touch me now. Why does it have to be, it says after 8 days. For 7 days, there was a ritual that needed to be taking place. And you couldn't, when someone was made a high priest, you couldn't touch them for 7 days. On the 8th day, you could touch them, but they were supposed to stay away from everybody for 7 days. When Aaron was sanctified, when his sons were sanctified, there was a 7-day period where they were supposed to stay in the temple, don't touch, right? But Jesus kept showing up. Go to Galilee. He didn't even say Galilee. He just showed up. Hello, leave it disappear. Hello, leave it disappear. So now that the 7 days are up, you can now touch me. Because we've completed everything. No one can go in the Bible anywhere and say, well, that could have been Jesus. Look how God messed up. Anything I ever told the priest that they had to do, I did it all, including not letting you touch me for 7 days. So after 8 days, okay, Thomas, you can now touch me. So he says to her, don't touch me, for I've not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. So change the calculus, because I've been, before I left, I said, in my Father's house are many mansions. In my Father's, but now that this is completed, you call him Abba Father. You think of him as Father. Now I'm ascending to my God and your God, my Father, your Father. We're all one. I'm just the first brethren of many, right? You are all in the same. You looked as just as righteous as me. The righteousness that I have, I've given to you. So we are all on equal footing with God. Now, I'm not saying we're equal with Jesus. I'm just saying, as far as how Jesus is demonstrating his relationship to God, you got that same relationship. Relationship-wise, we're equal with Jesus. That's about it. Relationship-wise, he's all of our Father. And so tell them that way, to rethink how they're looking at this. So in verse 18, it says, Mary Magdalene came and he told the disciples that she had seen Jesus. No one else had seen them. She saw him first. The disciples, like Peter and John, went to the tomb. They didn't see no Jesus. They didn't see no angels. I've seen Jesus. And that he'd spoken these things, or told them everything they said. And in Mark chapter 16, verse 10, it says, she went, told those who had been with him, and they mourned as they mourned and wept, And when they heard that he was alive and had been seen by her, they did not believe. Because he would appear to us men first, would he? Because he didn't. So after all this, but again, I mean, there's a reason. He played hide and seek with the disciples. Angels showed up to appear to the women. When Peter and John got there, angels disappeared. Mary Magdalene got there, angel was back. They left, no Jesus. She got there, Jesus. And so it was hard for them to fathom. But he had told them he was going to rise from the dead. It's like, that's why I told Thomas, blessed are those who have not seen and yet are going to believe. The usins. They're blessed, even more so, because I don't have to show up in their room. I don't have to say, touch the nail print in my hand. They're just going to believe through your word and your testimony. That's why you have to believe in this way. You have to believe my word, because that's what I'm going to ask them to do. But to these women, I want them to be one to spread the word to you. Now use your faith and believe that he's risen, that he's real. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for listening in. So we'll see what happened next after that. But it's all significant. It's nothing like, and here's what he did just for fun. All of it's a lesson to the disciples. All of it's a lesson to them. But to Mary Magdalene, your job is done. I have a sanctified body now. So stop looking for my body on this earth, looking for that body that you think you have to preserve. It's a new body now that will never die. And so your work is done. Now my work's beginning, and I have to finish and complete it on the cross. And then your job is just to go out and spread the good news. That's all you have to worry about. Okay. Thank you so much for listening in. I will be, now next week, I'm actually going to be preaching in the afternoon. I'll be teaching my Bible study in the afternoon because it's my anniversary. Yay, anniversary. So next week I'll be in the afternoon. If you're around in the afternoon, that's great, 3 or 4 o'clock. But otherwise, it'll be here on my page. So just try to remember, it's going to be early, but you can watch it at any time that you want. And the rest of you I'll see this Sunday. All right, bye-bye.